Today is the final session in a series of 5 messages, and in celebration of Mother's Day, we're looking at David's great-grandmother, and that is Ruth. Powerful lyrics to the song June just sang, and really this story, and I thought of so many biblical stories where people were just reaching out, wanting to receive affirmation, receive a blessing. There's a whole Old Testament process in the family unit in Israel where the oldest son would be given a blessing. And of course the story of Jacob and Esau, where Esau was the oldest and Jacob the supplanter was the younger, and he stole the birthright from his older son. Receiving a blessing from parents it should be a rite of life. It should be a rite of passage that we all enjoy. Unfortunately, in the real world, not all of us receive those types of affirming comments, or we just do not receive the affirmation that we so desperately need in life. And it can have an impact on our lives for the rest of our lives if we don't somehow receive that blessing. One of the wonderful things about a relationship with God is that God comes in as we expose our needs to Him. He comes in and He fills in where parent wounds have left a gap. And how many have experienced that already in life? Where you've had a father wound or a mother wound because parents aren't perfect and they don't always parent perfectly. But yet, when our need presents itself, God always comes through in some form, in the form of another relationship or between our relationship with Him specifically, and can fill in those areas of need and give us the blessing that human beings crave and desire. I'm convinced today that the world of crime that exists as it does is due to a large degree because people are not affirmed and feel loved in their world. They feel threatened. And so that gets people off on a different course altogether. A mother's love is so vitally essential in life. And I'm going to be looking at the story of Ruth today that gives us the example of 2 mothers. First of all, Naomi, of course, and then Ruth. And what I decided to do, Ruth is an Old Testament book. It's only 4 chapters long. And I'm going to read this entire story to you this morning. It's the legacy of Ruth, David's great-grandmother, and it is based on the book of Ruth. Once upon a time, it was back in the days when judges led Israel, there was a famine in the land. And a man from Bethlehem in Judah left home to live in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The man's name was Elimelech. His wife's name was Naomi. His sons were named Mahlon and Chilion, all from Bethlehem in Judah. They all went to the country of Moab and settled there. Elimelech died, and Naomi was left, she and her 2 sons. The sons took Moabite wives. The name of the first was Orpah, and the second was Ruth. They lived there in Moab for the next 10 years, but then the 2 brothers, Mahlon and Chilion, died, and now the woman was left without either of her sons or her husband. One day she got herself together, she and her 2 daughters-in-law, to leave the country of Moab and set out for home. She had heard that God had been pleased to visit His people in Israel, and the famine was over. And so she and her 2 daughters-in-law started out from the place where they had been living back to the land of Judah. After a short while on the road, Naomi told her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, go home and live with your mothers, and may God treat you as graciously as you've treated your deceased husbands and me. May God give each of you a new home and a new husband." She kissed them, and they cried openly. They said, "No, we're not going on without you. We're not going back to our people, we're going to go with you." But Naomi was firm. "Go back, my dear daughters. Why would you come with me? Do you suppose I still have sons in my womb who can become your future husbands? I'm too old to get a husband, and even if I said there's still hope, and this very night I married and had sons, can you imagine being satisfied to wait until they were grown?" Would you wait that long to get married again? No, this is a bitter pill for me to swallow, more bitter for me than for you. God has dealt me a hard blow. Again they cried openly. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth embraced her and held on. Naomi said, look, your sister-in-law is going back home to live with her own people and her gods. Go with her. But Ruth said, don't force me to leave you. Don't make me go home. Where you go, I will go, and where you live, I will live.